Hi, I'm Jeremy Cowan for Vanilla Plus. Now, in every market, there's a finite number of subscribers. So sooner or later, every operator is going to have to think about how to improve profit margins. So I'm here today to meet the CEO of Auga Systems, Ramez Yunan, to ask how they can help service providers to build their profitability. Communication service providers can't grow indefinitely by finding new subscribers. They obviously need to enhance profit margins. Can you tell us what the key ingredients are for achieving this?
Sure. In the 1990s, it was very easy for operators to grow through local penetration market. And then in the early 2000s, they went into mergers and acquisitions so they can grow as well their subscriber base across borders, in some cases economies of scale, in some cases get the revenue of the roaming, for example, access to that revenue. But these trends are kind of practically over, apart from some acquisitions in Africa and so on. So that leaves now the number of subscribers that need to be done or need to be acquired beyond the 4.6 billion subscribers today out of 5.5 billion. Now, to be able to get into achieving these revenues and the associated growth in margin, there are three areas that operators, I believe, need to focus on. One is capitalize on this huge increase in data services without their increasing their cost, their network cost. Second is the ability to identify their customers and able to provide offerings and a one-to-one offerings rather than mass offering for mass people. And more importantly and more strategically, how can they lead and drive the other industries to get onto the machine-to-machine platform rather than just wait until each industry defines its path by itself.
Real-time charging and policy control are often seen as simply a means of managing bandwidth, and yet that can have negative connotations for customer care. Auga Systems describes these as a key enabler. Can you expand on this, please?
In the past, it's been seen as a dissatisfaction for the customer, and that is because you're decreasing the bandwidth from one customer and increasing it to another. The reality is that at the moment, in fact, in a couple of years' time, the network cost will not be able to pay for the revenues coming from the data. So here's the challenge, that the operators have to do something about it. They cannot continuously increase their network cost. So they will have to differentiate the type of service or the type of SLA for a specific customer at a specific time. That is inevitable. But the way to do it is not just to eliminate or reduce the speed for a specific customer and provide it to another customer, let's say business customer, without the ability for that affected customer to increase their speed. So where Auga comes in is that we provide an integrated solution where you're able to enforce quality of service and the speed of service through the network to a specific customer based on the tariff, but also we give the hard-done-by customers, if you will, the ability to have online charging real-time. So if they wish to, say, download a movie or a YouTube, not at the expense of the high-end customers, then they have the ability to top up online interaction on the mobile immediately, and they would get immediate access to that bandwidth again.
How can operators break out of the cycle of flat rate pricing that's tying them to low revenues and rising costs? And particularly, what role can subscriber management play in that?
I think the operators have led themselves into this. I think nobody really asked them for a flat rate. But I think it is more of the way they see themselves as provider of a pipe, provider of a link to a network. And I think this is where that pricing became the most efficient to do. One, because they might not be able to calculate exactly how much usage is a person having at a certain time. Also because they have silences between prepaid and postpaid, so they do not necessarily know the behavior of customers, especially on the prepaid side, so they cannot estimate what is the actual usage that they need to provide an offering for. They need to do three things. One is put all their subscribers or their customers on one platform that they can measure what these customers need. Number two is to be able to develop a one-to-one relationship with the customer based on online real-time offerings, like Amazon do that. They see the preferences of the customers and so on. So there's nothing that prevents operators from getting into that service. And third, which I think is extremely important, is the ability to go to those at the end of the pipe in terms of companies, the Google, the Apple, Microsoft, the Facebook, whose business model actually rely on that pipe, and forge a partnership with them to say, guys, you're draining my pipe. I need help. Otherwise, I'm not able to provide these speeds that you are requiring and your innovation are requiring day by day. So these are the things that I believe are extremely important for operators to come out of the pipe and start to be part of the ecosystem with the content-led services.
Service providers in mature markets increasingly need to be able to upscale to handle billing for up to 100 million subscribers. Do you find that they are fully aware of this in enough cases, and how are they responding, and what are you doing to support them?
Back in the 1990s, operators decided for some reason to split their customers based on how they're built, how they're paying, postpaid and prepaid, for all sorts of good reasons at the time. But since then they have developed totally two silos systems parallel to each other based on how the customer is paying. The reality is, to be able to grow, you have to know your customers. So the need to combine those two in one platform, coming from a cost perspective, but also from a customer care and revenue potential. Combining those two poses that question of scalability. And the scalability comes in with a caveat in it. The systems that are able to run postpaid only, it was a small population, 10, 15 million subscribers. So the architecture that was structured around that volume was not very robust, or is still not very robust in most cases. Maybe rich on the functionality, but very, very incapable of handling 100 million subscribers, for example. And the billing systems coming from the other side of the prepaid obviously didn't need the high functionality, because the operators didn't really need to know much or give much service to those customers, but the scalability was paramount. So the architecture was built to provide that scalability. Now, trying to combine those two, there are a very, very limited number of systems that can provide you both the scalability, but also the functionality. And that's where a lot of customers are combining or converging their customers on our platform, because they get that both worlds, scalability and functionality.
Ramez, thank you.
Jeremy, thank you.